everybody, welcome to the Hello Road podcast, where we talk about unique and forgotten cars, road trips, travel destinations, racing, riding, and other fun car adventures. My name is Ethan.
My name is Paul.
And today it's time for another Q&A episode, which I'm super excited about.
Yes.
It's posted on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, kind of last minute. And we got lots of questions in a very short period of time, which I'm super, super stoked about. So
Yes.
It's been a while since we recorded last. Mm-hmm. I think since we've recorded, toilet paper is back in stock. There's a lot of changes have happened. I actually just realized that I haven't been grocery shopping in 3 weeks. And yesterday was like the first time that I drove in 2 weeks. What about you? What have you been up to?
Yeah, no, it's weird out there. That's all I can say about it. I mean,
You're an essential worker, right?
I am. Yes, I'm an essential worker.
Did you put that in quotes?
I did. I put it in air quotes.
Air quotes. Okay.
Yeah, I work in the auto parts industry, and right now is as good of a time as any for people to be working on their cars, and so we've actually been pretty busy at my shop. So that's been nice that there's been lots of orders and stuff going out and everything.
Yeah.
So that's great.
That's
but
good to
it's
hear
just
that sales are still going for you guys.
Oh yeah, no, it's been good, especially the last week. But I think that's because some people got their stimulus check that they're supposed to save for like rent and things, but they're instead buying buying side draft carburetor kits and all sorts of fun Willwood big brake kits and things like that. So, hey, more power to them. So that's fine by me.
Sure. Yeah. I am not an essential worker. So I've been spending most of my time at home and not going anywhere. So you probably have a better sense of like what the roads are out there. I've driven a little bit. It's been not as empty as I thought it would have been, but I'm not sure what your experience has been.
When the whole lockdown thing first started, it was very eerie out there driving because there was nobody on the freeway. And I've seen a lot of the memes of like the picture of like the one of the first posters from the Walking Dead TV show with I don't know the guy's name, but he's on the horse walking like on an empty freeway, and then like a picture of that. And it's really just empty because there's nobody on the road in Atlanta. So that was creepy, but that's kind of what it was like. But I can tell you this, the last probably 3 days, the traffic's been a little heavier going in. And I mean, this is Southern California we're talking about. Yeah. And the fact that it's taking me, 10 minutes to get to my work, which is normally about a 35 minute drive just because of traffic and everything is something. But I mean, I actually had to use my brake pedal on the freeway.
Whoa.
Because there was a little bit of congestion through a very gentle curve that everybody has to, hit the brakes for. But so that was a little off-putting this morning. But it kind of worked out to my favor because I had to reset the tire pressure light on my car, my Honda Fit. And to do it, you have to like drive at a consistent, like between 30 and 65 miles an hour for 30 minutes. And I'm like, well,
you can actually do that.
You can do that. And so yesterday on my way home from work, I just went a little further on the freeway and then turned around and came back, and my TPMS light is reset. So yeah, it's kind of
funny. That's the thing. Actually, that reminds me of like when I had to reset the readiness sensors from the check engine light in my Ford truck a few months back. I couldn't do it because of the way you need to drive. You need to have like a stretch of being able to drive like 60 miles an hour straight for a certain period of time. This is Los Angeles. Where am I ever going to be able to do that unless it's like 3 a.m?
Exactly.
But,
Now's the time to do it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. If anybody needs to reset that.
Their TPMS or their readiness sensors, now is the time to go do it. So it's a PSA from the Hello Road podcast. So.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just kind of weird
as
out there.
We can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is weird out there. We'll see what happens.
I haven't filmed much. I haven't filmed anything on the road other than just kind of driving around my neighborhood a little bit here and there. I think initially, when this was all starting to happen, I was a little tentative. I didn't want to get out there and, drive one of my crappy cars and then get stuck on a canyon road somewhere and then have to, try to social distance with a tow truck driver as he's bringing me back home. But I sort of thought about it a little bit. There's plenty of ways you can drive. I mean, I think I've been in the house for long enough where I just need a sanity drive. I think a lot of people are getting to the point where they just need to leave the house just for their own sanity. And that is something that, if you just do it carefully and you're not driving aggressively and you just, you're not going too far from home and you're driving a car that is relatively reliable. I think it seems like it's not a bad thing, obviously there's no laws in place that will keep you from doing that. It's sort of more of like a moral or ethical kind of thing if you want to just keep the roads clear. So I don't know. I was sort of on the fence initially, like I just, hard line, I'm going to stay at home unless I'm going grocery shopping. But now I sort of feel like there's ways to do it that you can not affect other people, especially if I guess it really depends on where you live. Here in Los Angeles, I can get outside of the city pretty quickly onto some canyon roads and onto some back roads towards where I work. And it's not really going to cause any trouble. So I've been thinking a little bit more about, okay, well, I could probably film, a YouTube video, maybe on the way to the grocery store, on the way to work to pick something up or something like that. And I won't feel too bad about it. And I haven't gotten any press cars recently. I put a hold on that just because I wasn't sure exactly. I saw a lot of other automotive journalists. I'm not going to lump myself into the journalist category, but I've seen other automotive journalists that have decided to not do any reviews right now. But it seems like a lot of the manufacturer, or at least a lot of the fleets now, they're sanitizing their cars before they bring them out, and they're doing a lot of stuff that can kind of make it better and safer, I guess. So I might try to see if I can acquire a couple more review cars during this pandemic. It just seems weird. I just didn't want to do anything that would risk anybody, I don't want to risk anybody to like review a car. That's like the stupidest thing ever.
Exactly.
So yeah, but it's weird out there, isn't it?
It is. It's very weird. Very strange. Very strange. I hope,
how many times are you going to hear the word unprecedented, in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah,
I've probably
exactly.
heard it about 1,000 times. It's true, though. It is.
I've decided I don't like the term social distancing. I don't know why. It's just, I don't like the term. It's just weird.
It's very clinical. It's very clinical.
Yeah, I think
just stay away from people. That's what you should call it.
Yeah, stay the hell away from me. There you go. That's the new one. Stay the hell away from me.
Exactly. Yeah. So I guess since we've been kind of social distancing and a lot of people are staying at home working on their cars, I actually have worked on my cars a little bit. You have done the same. I can probably start. I have that 97 Ford Probe, that purple's a good color name. Purple Ford Probe that, it was smoking when I first got it. I bought it for $300. So anything could be wrong with it. I really didn't know. Bought it sight unseen, and I drove it for a little bit, and then I started to realize, this thing has some issues. In the last video that I posted about it, at the end of the video, you can see that it is smoking a little bit. Now, a lot of Ford Probe people kind of popped out of the woodwork and gave me a lot of great tips. Some people were saying that the rear valve cover gasket is known to leak onto the exhaust, which I could totally see that happening. The way that it's designed, that the rear valve cover is kind of like way in the back there because it's a V6 crammed into this little tiny engine bay. So I was thinking maybe it's that. But then I started driving around, and then it really started to smell more like what it smells like when your head gasket starts to fail. It's just that weird. I don't even really know how to describe that smell, and in my last video, there's kind of an Easter egg in there. And if you were an eagle-eyed viewer, you would have noticed that the temperature gets pegged for a brief moment while I'm driving it around. And I don't think a lot of people notice that, but yes. So there is an overheating issue with this vehicle. So the next video that I'm going to be doing about this car is talking about that. I thought, maybe it's just low on coolant. I filled it up. Seemed like it was a lot better because it was pretty low. And then as soon as I started it, just started pissing coolant everywhere out of the bottom of the car. I think that I have it pinpointed to the water pump, I believe.
Okay.
And I'm not a great mechanic, as I've mentioned. So I've just about gotten all the parts off where I can get to the water pump.
Okay.
Which, if you've seen the engine bay of a Ford Probe or a Mazda MX-6, there is no room to work. You have to have little tiny baby hands in order to get in there. It's so difficult. It actually might be easier to just pull the engine. You actually have to take a motor mount off to get to the water pump. And I've done that. So basically right now the car is in my garage. I have a jack under the engine holding it up. There's one motor mount missing, and I've got the belts and I've got some pulleys off. And the next thing to do is take the timing cover off and then try to get to the water pump. And this is something I've never done before. I've never gone this far in a vehicle before. I've never taken a water pump out of a car before. So
okay.
I've never even taken a belt off a car. That's how much of a crappy mechanic I am. So
you picked a hell of a car to do it on.
I know, exactly.
Front wheel drive V6.
Oh, I know.
Longitudinally mounted. Oh boy. Okay.
So I've presented myself with a series of nearly insurmountable challenges. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
I'm pretty close. The water pump just arrived from Rock Auto today. I'm still waiting on a couple other things. I need a couple belts, and I don't know. Everybody in the on the Ford Probe Facebook page is like, "Oh, just replace the timing belt and all that stuff while you're in there." I'm like, I've never done that before. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do that right. So I'm thinking even though I'm in there and everything's off and ready to go and ready to replace the timing belt, I feel like I'm just not going to do it because that's just one more thing that I could screw up. I want to just make sure that it's possible that the water pump isn't even the source of the leak. So I want to just try that first. It wasn't too difficult to like get to this point. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, where I've got the engine, I've got that whole section of the engine kind of torn apart a little bit. And I'm just hoping that the leak is from the water pump and that there's not already like engine damage. It's very possible that this had been going on for a long time. This was a car that I bought from an auction. Who knows? Maybe it had been overheating for months. So it still seems to have a decent amount of power. So I don't know. It doesn't feel like anything's damaged, but it's really hard to tell. So that's where I'm at. That's pretty much what I've done so far with the Probe. That's pretty much all I've done so far in the last few weeks is just kind of tinker with that weird Ford vehicle that I have in my garage.
Yeah. I think that the best thing about it too is it is a $300 car. So I mean, literally, if something something doesn't go back on correctly, or there's some other major damage found, it's kind of like $300 is $300, but I mean, to get the experience and learn is, I think, more valuable than the $300, especially that you're getting in there and doing that.
Yeah.
So
and that's kind of how I was thinking about it. Well, thank you. Well, you don't have to applaud me for it. It's not running yet. That's kind of what I was thinking, though. The car was so cheap that I feel like this is my opportunity to take something that I have very low, not low risk, but it's just, there's not much to lose. If I screw up the car, it's like, okay, well, I just wasted $300 in a few hours of my time. So, and there are other cars that I really like that I don't want to screw up. I won't say that I don't like the Pro, but I don't know it well enough to know if I like it. So, so I probably wouldn't go and try to do anything really crazy with the 944 just because I really like driving that car and I would hate to like completely mess it up.
Exactly.
So
like the test car. If you can do it on that, if you can do this crazy water pump job on the Probe, you can do something crazy on the 944 if needed. It's just one of those things. I mean,
and I sort of feel like if I can get a water pump done on a Ford Probe with a V6 that's crammed into this tiny engine bay, then I should be able to do a water pump on any other car, at least any other, like Japanese car, at least. Yeah.
Within reason, I'm sure there's some horrible jobs out there. Exactly. I can just imagine some BMW electric water pump or something, but that's a different thing.
Sure. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm pretty excited of where I've gotten so far. Yeah. There's I've been learning a lot, which is great. And we'll see. We'll see. So you've been working on the Fit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, the Fit.
Yes. I've seen some of your Instagram posts that you've made some pretty significant changes.
Yeah.
And they're kind of I mean, they're pretty significant in terms of the way that the car looks and the way the car rides, right?
Yeah, they are. So I am a giant child, and I've already put on a exhaust on my Honda. Now I've put lowering springs on my Honda. No, I just happened to have a opportunity to get some iBox springs for it for relatively cheap. So why would I pass it up? So I got them, and
Yeah.
I've installed springs on Mini Coopers,
Did
various
you do
other
anything with
cars,
your
but
Fiesta?
I did not. No,
You did not.
I
Okay.
never did anything with the suspension on that. My Mazda had a lot of stuff done on it. My little Mazda 2.
Okay.
Um, and so I've been, I'm fairly confident with putting springs on a car. It's not rocket science.
Sure.
The fit, the fit fought me, and I didn't think it would fight me at all. And the majority of the issue I had with it was taking um, the way that I can back up a little bit. The way that the front struts mount on the fit is
Uh-huh.
unlike anything I had ever seen before. Normally, there's like a strut mount, and there's like 3 or 2 if you're a Daihatsu charade bolts
Sure.
that come up, and you undo those, and out comes the strut once you take the bolts off the bottom for
Yeah.
that type of
Easy
suspension.
peasy. Yeah.
Easy peasy. So on the engine bay of the Honda Fit is in similar vein to the Probe, kind of cramped a little bit, and the
Uh-huh.
cowl comes so far forward on it because of the way the windshield is set up that
Yep.
the actual strut mounts are almost under the cowl. So Honda gives you a little door that comes off, and you can get to the mount. But upon
Oh,
removing that,
weird. Okay.
I was like, huh. Instead of 3 bolts, there's just one. I'm like, this is odd. So
Oh, that's strange.
the way it's set up is it's kind of like sandwiched. I guess I'm going to call it a sandwich because that's basically what it is. There's it's sandwiched into this little to the pocket that it sits in with these 2 big rubber bushings, and the piece that holds the strut in place is actually it's like a big 17 millimeter nut, but with like probably, I would say, maybe a 2-inch washer that's like built in as part of the nut.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's very hard to get into it to break it loose, because on top of that, you've got to hold the Allen wrench inside of the strut to break it loose. And
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Yep.
it was quite the struggle getting those things out, but I finally did it, and I was thinking that it wasn't going to work, but I ended up winning, and everything was all good on the fronts, and got the springs on it, and then took a little break, and then the rears were super easy, so those went
Yeah.
on, and all was good, and now I have a lowered Honda Fit with an exhaust. But
Whoa.
it rides pretty
You're
good. It
18
looks.
again.
I'm 18 again. This is my 20-year challenge, is me
Sure.
doing this. I'm
Yes,
just
exactly.
30, just at 38 years old. But whatever.
That's fine. That's fine.
It's all good. It's all good. So no, it looks better. It definitely helped with the way that I didn't like how the back end of the car looked all raised up off the ground.
Sure.
So that's nice, but now I'm looking at it, and now of course I'm just like, I need wheels.
What else could I do?
So
What else could I do?
yeah,
A little stance work there. You can make those wheels stick out a little bit. No,
no,
please
no,
don't do
I'm gonna
that.
go for
Okay.
more of a motorsports look, like I
Okay.
typically go with on things. But I did manage
Mm-hmm.
to not waste. I did manage to spend yet more money on another little part for the car, and I did that just the other day. I got these little shifter bushings that are a bit more solid.
Okay.
Because one of my complaints about the Fit was it can get a little, I don't want to say crunchy, but it gets a little sloppy going in and out of gears, and it's just kind
Okay.
of it's the shift bushings that Honda uses. They're just rubber, so
Mm,
these are stiffer, and shifting life is much better now in the Fit. So
that's great. Got
so I
yourself a
got
little
that
lowered
was
sports fit.
it's getting there. It's getting there. I keep, this is supposed to be the year of the bug, but the bug's in quarantine at my parents' house, so
Oh,
that's my
yeah.
excuse.
Good excuses. Excuses.
Yeah, I
Yep.
know, excuses,
Yeah.
excuses.
Well, this is,
But
I mean, I get it though. This is the year of the bug. This was also the year that I wanted to start a rally, but it's like, okay, let's not get a bunch of people together right now.
yeah, well, we never know. We can just stay 6 feet apart
That's
on the
true.
rally.
Yes.
That's
The
true.
social distancing rally. That's not
Okay,
a
but
bad idea.
that's not a bad
Okay.
idea.
I'll start working
Very
on
good.
that.
I'll put
Okay.
notes right now.
And we will
Yeah, other
only
than
all just drive to and from the grocery store.
that's true. No, other than that, nothing crazy with the Daihatsu. I've been just a real quick thing on it. I've been very lucky in the like the memorabilia and just oddities for the Daihatsu.
Yeah.
I got hit up on Instagram by Daniel O'Grady from the YouTube channel Wasabi Cars. He was one of the earliest YouTube people that I was watching way back in the day. So I've chit chatted here and there with him, but he hit me up and he's like, "Look what I got! It was a document holder. In Japan, they have these in the glove box, and like it's basically just like a pouch that like all these new cars come with it. Like, but it was so cool because it was like an actual Daihatsu when it was all in Japanese, and I was like, yeah.
I love stuff like that. That's great.
He's like, "Do you want this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I would love that." So that came and it was awesome. And then I got that little die-cast Daihatsu Charade model that I was thinking about getting, but I'm kind of a cheap ass and didn't want to spend the money on it. But then Brad from Auto Off Topic, he starts poking me about it. He's like, just buy it. It's like $20. I'm like, he's like, "You need this." I'm like, "You're right, I do." So
I mean, who else is going to buy that? Who else is going to buy a die-cast Daihatsu? I think you're the only one. You might be the only one that would buy that.
Yep. It's on display in my living room right now. So
that's great.
Yeah. So no, it's been a good thing for Daihatsu memorabilia. So it's been fun. So
wonderful.
But yeah, we'll see what goes on next, what I find next.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm sure in the next episode we'll get into a little bit more on the Probe, and you can tell us how it's like to drive that lowered fit. But I think now it's been 20 minutes or so. I think we probably should dive into the Q&A because we got a lot of questions.
Yes.
I have no idea if we're going to be able to get to them all. We'll try. If not, we'll maybe do a separate episode next week. But let's see what we can get to. So we got some questions on Facebook. Let's start with Facebook, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's see. So
sounds good.
First question was from Scott Chamberlain. And if you don't know who he is the owner of the Homer. Are you familiar with the Homer? It's the 24 Hours of Lemons car that is designed like the Homer from The Simpsons, of course. He has a question, and I think this is kind of more directed to me, but I'm sure you'll be able to chime in here a little bit in terms of what your preferences are. So his question was, why do you prefer to have multiple cars in okay shape on average instead of just like 2 or 3 in really nice shape? I asked because I'm the opposite of you. I like to take on a new car, but I always think of how much work my current cars need right now, and that already shuts me down. So, so this one hit home and like actually kind of stung a little bit. I actually don't prefer to have multiple cars in okay shape. I just happen to be sort of the walking definition of someone that takes on too many things that obviously doesn't have time for even one of those things. So I guess between reviewing cars and making videos and, having a kid and, trying to do some stuff around the house and having a day job, it doesn't leave me a ton of time to fix my broken shit. So I think part of the problem is I'm just sort of one of those people that's tempted by the low price of a lot of the vehicles that I'm interested in. The $300 Probe, the $1,000 Geo Prism. It's like they don't really add up to a whole lot, but they do add up to like the weight and the stress of like all of these things that are now projects. And, I have this idea in my head that, okay, well, I'm just going to be able to find the time, and really the problem is I can't. So that's kind of where I'm trying to start to change that a little bit with the Probe. I really want to I've been sort of relying more. I used to be relying more on other people, mechanics to help me fix my cars. I really want to try to do more of that myself. But the problem is that, even simple stuff takes me a long time. I'm sure if somebody that had worked on a Probe, they would have gotten the water pump done in a few hours, but it's going to take me a couple days. So, ideally for me, I'd like to be able to get my cars to the point where they're all like somewhat reliable and they can pass smog. And, and if the YouTube channel starts to bring in a little bit more cash, then I would love to bring on a mechanic in some of the episodes to like actually like help out. Or if any of the listeners are, once this coronavirus thing's done, if any listeners are in the LA area that want to appear in a couple videos and help me fix my crappy cars, you're welcome to come by. I'll pay you in beer, or pizza if you don't drink. So yeah, I guess, this question was, it definitely, it stung a little bit because my intention isn't to have a bunch of crappy cars. My intention is to have a bunch of interesting cars that all are kind of, somewhat reliable and I can drive them, but it's not quite there yet,
Yeah.
What about you? I mean, you've got a few cars.
I
Obviously,
do.
one's in great shape, brand new. You got your Daihatsu; it's in pretty good shape, and the Bug, the Bug's not in the best shape.
It's hard because it weighs on me a lot of the times is thinking about what do I need to do to these cars, and for the fit, the
Sure.
answer is really nothing. I just need to be a
You're having fun with that
18-year-old
car.
kid and have fun with it. And then the Daihatsu, the dreams are very large of what I would like to do to it, but then at the same time, it's like, it's this battle I have mentally with myself over, do I want to like go for like this full restoration and drive this beautiful museum piece around, or do I want to just, and it's the kind of day in, day out things. It's the same thing with the Bug, because the Bug's kind of even more so of a blank canvas where it's like, well, I could just get it to the point where it's driving, or I could turn it into a class 11 Beetle, or I could like make it into some hot rod. I don't know. It's just, it's hard. When you have multiple cars, it's hard. Even if the car is new, if you're any sort of car person, you're going to want to do something to it. It didn't take me long to do something to the fit, and it was a perfectly fine car. And I think within the first couple of weeks, I had the exhaust on it, and it was like, it's hard not to do things to the car. So regardless if it's new, running, or not running, it's a difficult balance because it's the time.
Sure. Well, you also make a good point about to what level do you want to take a car to?
Right.
For me, like I've had new cars, and then that first dent that you get is like the worst. It just like eats you away. That like this kind of perfect car is now imperfect, and I hate that feeling. So I kind of enjoy having cars that are imperfect. I don't like them to be terrible, but I do want them to have issues. So that way, I'm not too concerned if like my Nova the other day got a big crack in the windshield. I'm like, whatever. It doesn't eat away at me anymore, because all the cars have these little issues that I know that it's not going to be perfect. A car is never going to be perfect, and I don't strive for that. I do strive for them to be better than they are now, for sure. So
right. No, that would be the goal I can see. Like if all of your fleet was running, and it would be like awesome. That would be I think, so cool.
Sure. Well, and the thing is, getting them to pass smog is another thing. I don't think the Pontiac will ever pass smog. The Stanza, I bet I could get it to do it. The Prism, I could get it to pass. The Nova, no problem. So there's a few issues there, but anyway. So I think we should move on to the next question. Okay. So Nick Hernandez, he says he enjoys listening to podcasts while on longer drives. This one included. Oh, thank you. What are some of your favorite podcasts to listen to, car related or otherwise? What about you? What do you like to listen to?
Automotive podcast. My big standby is our good friends Brad and Andrew at Auto Off Topic. Always interesting. Always fun. And
you always learn something too.
You always learn something, which is true. For a good laugh, there's always DWA.
Driving While Awesome. Yep. Good dudes, crazy, good conversation.
Yes. Crazy antics.
Yes.
And they put on a really good rally.
They do. It's a great rally.
And then, I think I like listening to Smoking Tire, to Matt's show, because he always gets on some really amazing guests, and like some of the shows are really like, I remember he did one a couple years ago with Aloy. I'm going to say it wrong and people are going to get mad. Alois Roof. I'm
not sure how to pronounce that either. Yes.
Yeah. And that was like, I still to this, I still think about that episode, like almost on like a weekly basis. Like, man, that was such a good episode. And I was like, it's like goals. That's like, where we want to be.
Sure.
And we will.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing. We've had some really great guests too. And that's one of my favorite things is just getting to hear some of the, the stories that people have to tell. So
exactly. It's so awesome.
We'll endeavor to do more of that.
Yes. That's I typically only listen to automotive podcasts. I've tried to listen to other stuff, but I can't get into it. It's just because it's the car people are my people, and that's what I do.
Yeah. So I can,
How about you?
I'm right there with you on the automotive podcasts that you've suggested. Those are the same ones that I listen to. One that I kind of have been into, I haven't listened to it recently, but I used to listen to it a couple of years ago, was something called Song Exploder, which is kind of an interesting take on listening to songs where they interview musicians and they deconstruct how a song was written and recorded. So they kind of go into like they actually take the stems of the song and let you just hear like the drum track or just hear the bass or like to hear this weird sound that was recorded in the studio or something like that. So that's kind of a neat way if you're into music and you're into like kind of like the stories behind the songs. That's a pretty neat one. Another one that I really like is called The Accidental Creative. And this is, I have a marketing background and creative background. So like this one's kind of useful for me where it gives you a lot of great ideas on creativity and productivity. And they do interviews with writers and creators and authors and that kind of thing. And if you're into like just ideas on how to be more creative or how to like, use your time efficiently and that kind of thing, it's a good podcast for that if you're kind of in the creative world. So
cool.
And it doesn't really, it applies to me a little bit like in how I approach like the YouTube channel and that kind of thing. Doesn't really help me with like my actual car endeavors and like fixing them or anything like that. But it's kind of a neat one that I like to listen to on occasion. So yeah.
It sounds fun.
Yes, definitely.
Sounds awesome.
So Gohan Ruiz, who's one of my coworkers at Strymon, the company that I work for, he asked, dream road trip from where to where and what car would you want to take? So I'm just going to tell Gohan that if you go back to the Hello Road archives, we have a whole episode on this. And get this, it's actually called Dream Road Trips. It's episode 12. So
there you go.
If you want to go back and listen to that, we've got a whole episode on what we think our kind of cool road trips would be. So and anybody else that has as new listeners, go back and listen to our archives. We've got some gems in there. I think I would say. I won't go that far. It was a pretty good episode, but
it was a lot of fun.
Matt Smith, if you had to from Facebook, if you had to pick one hoopty that you haven't owned yet to daily for the rest of your life, which would you choose? Do you have a thought for this one? One hoopty.
I kind of do.
There has to be a hoopty, so it has to be kind of a car that's probably going to break. That's kind of the definition of hoopty, right?
Yeah, I was between two cars, and I've decided on this car because I just saw an ad for it, and I was like, yeah, that's got to be it. And that would probably be the 1994 first year Hyundai Accent 4-door 5-speed.
Cool.
I think that would be a good car. I think.
I actually literally said cool when you said Hyundai Accent. That shows you what kind of podcast this is. You can really get a sense of what kind of cars we like.
The first one had kind of that like, it kind of had like a little round face, kind of like the Mitsubishi Mirage.
It was weird.
At least the Mirage did. I think they changed it. Yeah, it was a little round car, and
goofy looking little car.
Yeah, it was really goofy. It was a total Paul car. Yeah, that's what that's my choice right there.
Sure. Okay. So I was thinking, I need something that I want to be able to drive my family around in. So it can't be too small. Accent would be fine, but I don't know. I like to have a little bit of space. I'm kind of tall, so I want to have a little bit of room. So in that case, I'd probably go with something a little bit bigger. And since it's a hoopty and it's probably going to break by the definition of this question, I'm going to go with a Toyota. Because maybe if it was a Toyota, then it wouldn't break catastrophically. So I was thinking maybe, what about an 88 Camry wagon? Or actually, you know what would be even better is like the next generation, like maybe a 92. So that's got the rear facing seats in the back. So it's like a family car from the early 90s. It's reliable as hell. And it's just, it's weird. It's kind of got a weird ass end on the thing. And it's just going to be really reliable. So my mom used to have. She didn't have the wagon, but she had the sedan of that generation. It was a good car. So I'm gonna go with a Camry, something boring.
you can pick me up when my Hyundai breaks down on the side of the road. You can come and get me.
Yeah,
like, Ethan, come get me with your hoopty. My hoopty's dead.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I don't know. So hoopty questions are always fun for me because I don't know. That's what my whole life is having a bunch of cars that don't work very well. So I could have just picked one from my own collection. So I am very sorry about this, but I'm going to butcher my friend's name because I've seen, this is somebody that I talk to a lot on Facebook and on the Radwood forums, but I've actually never said his name out loud before. I mean, maybe you have because he's on the Radwood forums, but you're not on Facebook, so you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Tajamul Hassan Rizvi, I hope I said that right. Okay. He asks, what song is your driving song? What gets your blood pumping? Have you thought about what kind of music you like to listen to while you're driving? I can tell you what I've been into lately. So I've been driving, at least before this whole lockdown, I've been driving my 1986 Porsche 944 Turbo like a ton. I've been driving it every day that I could. And this is it's a cocaine white 80s sports car, fast, fun to drive, pop-up headlights. Everything about it just oozes 80s. So I've been listening to Calm Trues, which is kind of a throwback of kind of like, it's sort of like future retro. It's kind of like what 80s might sound like if it was around today. So it's kind of a neat like synth wave sort of approach to the 80s music. It doesn't sound like the way 80s music sounded. It's almost like a caricature of how 1980s music sounded. It's like takes things and makes them even more extreme. But that's kind of what I've been listening to while I've been driving that car, and it just totally fits.
Nice.
Yep. Yep.
Well, for me, since I don't listen to music in the charade, so I don't have anything that fits with the charade. But that's mostly because the charade has one speaker and a tape deck.
Just listen to the Beatles. It's in mono anyway.
There you go. So most of my music driving is in the Fit, and I've just been enamored probably for the past year, basically, with John Frusciante's solo catalog. So basically anything from there, because it varies a lot. It varies a lot.
You're not
in terms
even
of this, I'm not even drinking. In terms of the musical style, like, there's the rock side of things, but then he's also got like an electronic side of things, and that's kind of more recent stuff. And even that is, any type of electronic music will really kind of get your blood pumping, I guess, if you're driving. It's almost you put a disclaimer on it, don't drive listening to this music, and because it makes you like kind of like, okay, I'm going to take this turn at 60. Not really, it's just like, yeah, let's do this. So, but yeah, no, that's kind of like the majority of the stuff, like when I, on my thing has been that. And then than that, like I listen to a lot of like, I guess you would say guitar legends and stuff like that. So I listen to a lot of Clapton stuff. That'll get me going, or Jeff Beck. That kind of stuff is just like, okay, cool. And that's typically what I listen to when I drive.
Some of that stuff's good driving music for like road trip music. Some of the those Guitar Heroes kind of stuff is pretty good for that.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's basically where I'm at with it.
Yeah. I always like when the music and the car stuff kind of crosses over on our podcast. We got to talk about that a little bit more in the future. Okay. So,
totally.
Let's see. Christopher Bailey, he on Facebook, he asked about the Probe. I guess I went over that. Are you keeping the Grand Prix? Good question. Probably not for, I don't know. I got to fix it first. Not sure. And then he asked about the auction episode when I bought the Ram truck. And he's asking if I bought the Ram and the Probe in the same way. And actually I did. So I bought these on an online auction, and this was bought. They were both bought sight unseen. I mean, I obviously saw pictures of them on the listings, but you really, it's not a great way to buy a vehicle, I don't think. I mean, I did it, and I don't like, at least with the truck, I wasn't burned. The truck runs great. The truck just needed a battery, and oil change. That's pretty much it, and a cleaning, obviously. The Probe is still on the fence about, but it was only $300. The truck was $12,000. So, so that was a super huge risk that I took to buy that truck that way. I wouldn't recommend that anybody does that, but I do know that people do it. I know that a lot of dealers do this because they have the manpower and the capabilities and skill to take a vehicle like that and recondition it and sell it. For me, as a non-dealer, I have to pay extra fees above and beyond what a dealer would. So I'm not a dealer. And in living in California, you can't actually purchase a car that's at an auction. At least I think most of them, unless you have a dealer license, if it's in California. So I couldn't buy a California car. The truck was from Arizona. The probe is from Colorado. So, when you look at the prices for this, I paid quote $300 for the Pro, but you had to tack on shipping. So I definitely paid when you look at that, you gotta factor in that kind of stuff. So I don't know it didn't seem like a big deal with the Probe because it was just sort of like okay, I'm just gonna I have a little bit of extra money. I'm going to spend it on this silly little project. So I don't know. I guess if you have a little bit of money kind of itching, burning in your pocket, maybe it would be kind of a fun thing to do on a low risk, kind of inexpensive purchase. But I don't know. It seems like it's really kind of something that might be more suited to dealers, and especially in this economic climate that we're in right now. I don't know. It's definitely a high risk. So
definitely,
you're probably better off finding something that you can actually look at physically. So I think part of the problem is just being in California. I can't buy, I have to have the dealer license to do that in California. So if you live in another state, yeah, sure, you could go to the local Copart and look at the car and inspect the car before you place a bid on it, which is great. I just didn't bother doing that because I can't buy a California auction car. So yeah, that's my answer on that. Have you ever looked into auctions?
Just the Japanese ones.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because they have a whole crazy auction set up over there. You can look it up online how they do it.
Sure.
But you can buy auction cars from Japan. It's just kind of a pain in the ass because you got to, there's the fees and obviously the gigantic language barrier and everything. But
sure.
In importing, but we kind of touched a little bit on the importing things a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, in the last episode. Yeah.
Was it the last episode already? Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while since we recorded.
It has been. But yeah, it's that just basically that the stuff out of state. I'd like to see something before I buy it. That's just kind of my way of doing things.
You really should do that. I'm just an idiot. That's why I did it the way I did it.
No.
Plus, if you just buy a car the normal way, it doesn't make for a very interesting YouTube video. So gotta do something stupid.
That's true.
Right?
That is true.
Yep.
That's true.
I don't know. We still have a lot of questions. Let's see. I don't know if we're gonna get to all of them, but let's see what we can do. So on Twitter, John Osborne asked, "What is extinct in the automotive landscape that you'd like to see return? It could be a brand, a feature, a model, or a style of car." So I thought about this a little bit and, well, first of all, we had a whole episode on dead car brands. So I'm just going to keep plugging old episodes that we did. If we have any new listeners here, you should go back to listen to episode 20, where we did a whole episode on what dead car brands we wanted to see make a comeback. So definitely listen to that.
Right.
So I don't know. I was sort of bouncing around, trying to think of how would I answer this question? Because I like pop-up headlights, but they're not really, that's never going to come back. I was thinking maybe, what about the digital dashes in the 80s? So that could, all the new dashboards are moving to displays. This is something that could easily be done with these new dash displays. Just kind of find a really interesting way to display the information. I feel like the 80s was a great period of exploration and experimentation when it came to displaying data in front of the driver. And it's just been so boring since then. It's just okay, it was just shows speedometer and heat, just fuel, and that's it. So I just think there's an opportunity here to get more creative and not just an eye candy. I see a lot of the stuff on Audis and Mercedes where it's just eye candy. I feel like there might be some interesting ways to look at how you're displaying the data that might be more usable, but also have kind of a retro look to it. So, yeah,
that would be sweet.
Also just the stupid answer that I probably would come up with all the time is okay, I want to see more station wagons. I want to see the crossover die a fiery death. I like to see more vans. I like to see weirder cars. I love it's stupid stuff like the Fiat Multipla and the Renault Aventime and even the Honda Element. There's just not a lot of that going on. It's all these automotive manufacturers okay, let's just make another crossover in a different size. here's the CX5 and the CX30 and the CX9, and it was come up. I don't know. I just there's not a lot of creativity going on. At least maybe I'm just looking at it the wrong way, but it feels like just crossover hell right now. That's my rant.
Yeah,
and I'm sticking to it. What do you think? I'm going to give you a chance to talk after I stop ranting about crossovers.
No, because this is probably going to start another one. I think that the biggest thing I'd love to see come back is more color.
That's a great great suggestion. Yeah. Like the 90s were perfect.
Everything's gray. Yeah, yes. Gray, white, and black. And silver. That's all that's out there.
You got to give some credit to Mitsubishi. For the Mirage. They've got like really cool colors that are very throwback 90s colors in that car. And there's nobody else doing that. Yep.
Yeah, and that's kind of always been not always, but that's like as of like the last 10, 15 years, you've seen the funky colors on the odd cars. Like you can get an orange Honda Element, you can get a lavender Fiat Multipla. I remember they had like that lavender color on those cars. Sure. And the weirder the car was, a yellow Pontiac Aztek. That was kind of like the draw to it. But as great as that is, if I wanted to go buy a brand new BMW 3 Series, I'd like to have more color choices other than like, their color palette is like, white, black, silver, gray, and then you get into the dark, dark blue, maybe a dark, dark red, maybe a dark, dark green. But like, no, let's put like, a real red, a real green, have something, or, I know you can get like the yellow on like the M cars, but, things like that, I'd like to see it on more day-to-day cars, Toyota giving like us a Camry. I mean, they do have red Camrys, but,
I'd
like to see something like really daring, like maybe.
Well, and the thing is they sell so many Camrys they sell so many Camrys that you would think that they should be able to do a few weird, kind of oddball colors, and they're going to move them at some point.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. No, more color. That's my thing.
Good call.
I've had a silver car, a white car, and a black car, and I'm not going to do that ever again. It's all going to be color from here on out. I mean, the obviously the Daihatsu's white, but long-term goal, it's going to be it's going to be teal.
Teal,
of course,
teal time.
But that's long-term goal. So
okay,
more color.
All right. So I'm gonna screw this guy's name up too. He's a guy that I follow on Twitter. Brad Yisseldike. I think I said that right. As an owner of several affordable Brad era cars, what are you tending to see as difficult parts to come across? So, I mean, obviously my anything from my Grand Prix for the brakes in the Grand Prix, that's impossible to find, and discontinued, nothing to replace it. The Stanza wagon, fuel pump, can't find that anymore. I got to come up with a creative solution for that. I mean, even just things that it would have been hard to find initially, like the wiring harness on the Stanza is kind of messed up. Maybe 20 years ago, I might have been able to find a few running Stanza wagons to pull it from, but now it's, how do you even find that?
Yeah, forget it.
So some of that stuff, it's just cars that they didn't make very many of, or they just, nobody cared about them. That's going to be hard to find, just replacement parts of trim pieces. I mean, that's the thing with my Nova. They made a lot of Novas from the 80s, a lot of Corollas from the 80s, but they were just forgotten and just, throwaway cars. So even if I wanted to find a trim piece, all those cars are long gone. I can find a few here and there, and, car-part.com is a good place to find some, to search for stuff like that. But that's the stuff that is a little tough. And you drive a Daihatsu, so you know all about this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the common thing, though. Anything that's, over 20 years old, it's impossible to find interior parts for it. That is, unless it's like, a big poster car, if you're driving a 20-year-old Ford Mustang, that's probably not hard to find some of the parts, or a Camaro or Corvette, a Jeep. Those are the things. But the real oddity cars of the Radwood era, it gets next to near impossible. And it makes it even harder when it's like, you look at something like your Turbo Grand Prix, where it was only offered for a few years, and it's like there's model specific parts on it. And yeah, good luck. You're gonna, it's like the brake system, which is working right now, but the thought was I'm gonna have to have some custom work done to get it to stop. And the same with the Stanza wagon. Like, you're gonna need to go to an auto electrician who really knows what they're doing to basically go through and rewire the whole entire damn car. And like, is it going to be worth it? How much do you love your Stanza wagon? That's the.
I mean, there's no way in any sense of the word it'll be worth it. But I kind of it's for some of these vehicles, you just kind of feel like, well, if I don't do it, the car's just going to go away. It's just it's just going to get crushed. So you kind of feel a little bit of responsibility. But I guess the thing is that at the same time, like at some point, maybe after we're long gone, these cars are going to go away too. Just you kind of want to try to keep them going as long as you can. So,
that's definitely the right way to think about it. And you got to be inventive and use ingenuity to overcome the obstacles. Like, there's people that use parts from other cars, different makes to like, oh, this is supposed to be. This is a shock from a Toyota MR2, but with a body from a shock body from a Saab. They get people get crazy with things, and it's like, oh yeah, it works just fine. And it's like, okay, cool.
That's helpful for some cars. Like, at least for the Turbo Grand Prix, there's enough of them still out there where there's enough people that understand what parts work. But for the Stanza wagon, geez, I don't know. I have not found anybody that has provided any. There's no Stanza wagon community. It's 4 people. So it just kind of depends. It depends on the car.
It does, and it can be very difficult. There's times when it's like, if this something breaks that I can't get, at what point do I cut my losses with it? And that's honestly how I feel about the Daihatsu all the time, because it's like, it's hard to get things. And it can get expensive if there's things you really, really need to like bring something in from overseas, but it can be nerve-wracking sometimes.
Well, and I just recently started following this Facebook group on it's for Isuzus, because I've always sort of been interested in the Geostorm GSI, which is basically an Isuzu. Oh God, I'm blanking on the Isuzu that it is. Impulse.
Cutlass or no Impulse.
Right. Yes, Cutlass. Yes, exactly. But there's like, this guy posted this thing where this little plastic seal that like went at the end of the camshaft or something broke, and there's no finding another one of those. So you have to like kind of makeshift something with JB Weld or have something 3D printed. We've talked about this before. There needs to be more like, companies out there that could easily print this stuff. I don't know. There probably is, but anyway, that's the problem. There's a lot of stuff like that there's no replacing those parts. Okay. So next question. Let's see. I don't know if we have how much more we have time for. Let's see. Wookie Automoto TV on Twitter. He wants us to rank his car history. So he's got a Jeep Comanche, or at least he had a Jeep Comanche, Geo Tracker soft top, a base Saturn Ion, a Merkur XR4 Ti, a Dodge Diplomat, and a 78 Jeep Cherokee, which is the full size one. It's not the small one that from the like 80s and 90s. So I don't know, that Cherokee. If you look that up, look up everybody that's listening, look on your phone, look up the 78 Jeep Cherokee, the full size one. It's pretty cool. That would be my number one. It was sort of a toss up between that and the Merkur, because that's just a weird oddball 80s thing. You'd think I'd go for the Merkur first, but I don't know. That Cherokee is pretty cool. I think then I'd probably go Geo Tracker next, because I love those things. Comanche, those are really, really sweet. Then the next is Dodge Diplomat. I had a Chrysler Fifth Avenue, which gave me a whole lot of trouble, so I don't have a ton of love for that platform for the M bodies. And then lastly, the Saturn Ion, because it's just sort of, to me, it's a forgettable plastic car. So what do you think?
I'm the opposite. Number one is that of course, that number one for me, the base Saturn Ion.
Oh,
I have a soft spot for Saturn.
Incorrect.
Oh, it's so cool though. No, I would be that, and then after that, after the Saturn would.
I couldn't disagree with you more.
It's a fun car. After the Saturn would be the the Mercure. Those are sweet.
Yeah.
I love those cars a lot.
Yeah.
Mercure. The
Whatever.
XR4 Ti.
Mhm.
They're, you look up. There's so much like rally heritage around that car.
Yeah.
Maybe not that exact model that we had here, but
Mhm.
it's still a really cool platform, and there's really
It
cool
is.
stuff you can do with them. And I think that. And after that, it's kind of like the
The
Geo
rest?
Tracker. I think. Oh,
Yeah,
I
okay.
would. I don't want to say it the rest in any sort of
Okay.
disrespect, but like I would say the Tracker, and then after that would be the rest. So
Okay.
that's my
All
top
right.
three. There we go. My
All
top
right.
three.
Okay. And I have to double check, but I believe he still has a Diplomat. At least he has a picture of it on his Twitter. So that might be his
Okay.
current car. So sorry, we didn't give your Diplomat that much love. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I think we have enough time to get to some of the Instagram stuff. I mean, we can go a little bit
Sure.
over an hour, see how this goes. So
Yeah.
Rob E30 on Instagram. When will we see a
Mm-hmm.
Hello Road project car shootout? It would be awesome to see you guys pitting your cars against each other in a series of wacky challenges. And yes, I would love to do this. I wish I could be a little bit more creative in what type of wacky challenges. So if anybody has any ideas, please let us know. I will say this: I just got a GPS 0 to 60 timer because I had been, my old videos, I've been sort of just doing it with my phone, which is not accurate. So I want to try to get a more accurate timing for some of my crappy cars. So I was at the least thinking maybe I could do a shootout between all of my crappy cars and see which ones are from 0 to 60, how they kind of stack up. Maybe I could let you
That would
borrow
be
that
fun.
and you could do your cars too.
Yep. That would
Yeah.
be, well, the Daihatsu would be obviously the funnest one to do. The Fit shouldn't. I guess if we're going to throw them all in there, we'll throw the Fit in too.
You got to.
Yeah.
And I
No.
guarantee you the Daihatsu is not the slowest.
Oh, no. I would
No,
say it's
is it as
it's a
fast as the
spry little
Fit?
car.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I would. I don't know. I guess
Well,
we'll have
we got to do
to
this
test
then.
it and see.
We just
Yeah,
have to
we
find
got
a
to.
spot where we can do a 0 to 60 test, which does not kind of morally or ethically kind of step
Right.
on the idea of social distancing and causing a ruckus. So we'll see if we can do that, and maybe we could do a little 0 to 60 at the very least. Hopefully once the hopefully we all hope that things will start to get back to normal. Maybe we can do I don't know, an autocross with some of our
Yes.
cars and see how they do.
Yes.
I think that would be great. I would like to take my, I was just looking at the tires at my Nova twin cam. They're kind of bald. So I probably got to get some new tires for that. But once I get some new tires for the twin cam, I would like to take that to an autocross and see how it
Yeah.
does versus the Fit or the Daihatsu.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it would be a
yep.
ton of fun.
I would say that's not a wacky challenge. Rob was asking for a wacky challenge. I mean, we could maybe see like how many golf balls fit in the trunk of each car or something. I don't know.
How many
bagels
packing peanuts? Oh,
yeah. How many bagels can you fit in the back seat? Or I don't know. I don't know. I need to come up with some more creative ideas there. But if anybody has anything, just let us know.
Totally.
So, Troy Miner 7 on Instagram. Are you going to keep the XB? Of course, because it's the most reliable car I've ever had. What are some modern cars that you really like? I can go real quick because there's a few that I've driven that I really dig. MX-5, it's a great car. You're just like, okay, Miata is always the answer. This one comes with a caveat: Civic Type R. Just don't look at it. That's a great car. Just close your eyes. Don't look at it. SUVs, the Telluride that I tested was great. The Mazda CX-9 is great. I haven't driven this car, but I have to drive this one. The Camry XSE with a V6. It's just a Camry, but it's got 300 horsepower.
Yes.
300 horsepower in a Camry. This car is going to run circles around a lot of sports cars from the 80s. So
yeah,
I'm really going to try hard to get one of those to review. And then in terms of economy cars, Kia Soul. That's a great car. It fits a lot of crap in the back. And it's just a cool design.
Yeah, totally.
What do you think for new cars that you like?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had the opportunity to drive all the cars like you have.
Just some that you like the way that they look, or what you've heard about them.
I mean, I'm of course got to chalk it up to the Fit. I love my Fit and everything. It's a great little car. Civic Type R, obviously. But
you like how that looks.
Yeah, but I'm also a giant child.
You could not be more wrong. I'm sorry. We have to have a little bit more tension on this
Yeah.
podcast. You are definitely wrong.
Oh, no, you're wrong. It looks beautiful. It's a beautiful car, Ethan.
Okay.
Yeah, Civic Type R, I think is definitely one of them. More of a performance luxury car thing. I would say the current generation, M5 is just a beautiful, gorgeous car that, is something that I would never own, just too much money. But it's, if you're looking at big luxury, fast German stuff, I love that car.
Yeah.
SUV wise, the one thing I will say I do like.
It's hard to get excited about an SUV, but
it is. But there's, I did own that Subaru Outback for a while, and it was a good car, and I do like the idea of a rugged type of soft roader, I guess, whatever the hell you want to call it. But the one car that really stands out that I like that came out is the new the Honda. What the hell is it called? It's not the Pilot. It's the other one, the Passport. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's a cool one. Yeah,
it is cool because you can you think about it. You do it up a little bit with some bigger tires and stuff. Maybe like a roof rack that hopefully has some useful stuff on it. It's it looks good. So that's kind of where I'm at on that in terms of the newer stuff. But yeah, that's
all right.
That's what I feel.
He has another question. Are you comfortable working on your cars yourself, or you typically bring them to shops? And for me, usually we talked about this a little bit. It's a matter of time for me. I do the shops for some stuff, I had a local shop work on some of the stuff with the Nova twin cam, mainly just because I didn't have time. But most often, a lot of the shops that I talk to do not want to work on cars from the 80s and 90s. They're just they're old enough that they're just a pain in the butt. You have to have weird specific tools to read the codes and like GM specific tools to read the stuff on the Grand Prix. It's just garbage. So nobody wants to deal with it. I talked to a bunch of places about the Grand Prix and everybody said, nah, not interested.
Right.
It's funny because when I thought I was going to have a shop actually replace the brakes on the Grand Prix, that terrible brake system that doesn't work anymore, I found a hot rod shop with this guy that only works on like 50s and 60s cars. And he was interested because he's like, I'm just going to rip all that crap out and put, whatever crap he usually puts in his, whatever boost system he usually puts in his 50s and 60s cars. So
whatever's in stock at Summit.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. And I was like, at that point, I was like, okay, at least at that point, it's just just bypass all the stuff that's difficult to work with. So, yeah. Yep.
It's a good question because I love working on cars. I love working on my own cars, but I also have the luxury of having a really good friend who has his own shop that
that's great.
Has lifts in it, and usually just a text message or a phone call. Hey, I need to come in there Saturday because it's for like my wife's car. I'm typically it's hard to jack it up. And so I'm like, okay, I just go take it and do the oil change at your shop because you got the lift. So, but he's been, it depends for me on how difficult the thing is or how tedious it can be. Cause he's been a mechanic for over 20 years or 25 years now, I guess. And he really knows what he's doing. So like, I trust him with things like the Daihatsu. Like when we had to do like the water pump the second time, it was like, okay, you're going to do it because you know what you're going to do, and you're going to slip the timing belt off and get everything all dialed back in and make sure it doesn't blow up not like me who could potentially do that. And that's that. So I rely on him, my family, and all my, close-knit friends. He's our main mechanic. So he does everything. So it works. But yeah, I do like working on my own stuff though in the driveway. So if it's nothing too, tedious or could potentially become a catastrophic job, then I'll just do it. And that's how that'll work.
All right, cool. So Sagra_kid asks, what kind of insurance coverage do you put on your Hoopties? I have a few and just put liability. What has your experience been? So for me, just for my crappy cars, it's liability. I will say for the cars that I love, so I basically the two cars that I absolutely adore are my Nova twin cam and the 944 turbo. So for both of those, I'm using Haggerty.
Okay.
And I'm using State Farm for everything else. So the Haggerty is actually cheaper than State Farm. But the thing is, they won't cover everything else. They don't really think that a Turbo Grand Prix is worthy of their time. The Stanza wagon, they're not going to insure that. It has to be kind of more on the classic side of things, which I am surprised that they considered the Nova that, but they did. Maybe
they saw
because
Nova. They didn't. Maybe they didn't look at the year. They're like, oh, he's got a Nova. All right, yeah, sure, exactly. Yeah, we cover Novas.
Sure,
it's an 86.
Yeah, exactly.
Man,
88. It's an 88. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 88. Sorry, it's
hard
to keep track.
Right.
Sorry. It's interesting. I thought about this question because it's just liability. That's all I have on the Charade.
Yeah.
But I always. Should I have full coverage on it? What would that look like?
I know.
It would be hilarious. So, what's the replacement value? $500. And I thought about Haggerty, but I haven't. I've only thought. I haven't looked into it.
You should look into it.
I've got a Charade. I don't drive it a ton. It's a classic.
You know what? I think you should do it because I was surprised about the Nova, and you do stated value for that. So I just kind of thought, kind of rough value, and the Nova might be worth like $3,500. So there's actually, I believe $3,500 is the minimum. So if you don't feel like the Charade is worth $3,500, then it might not be worth it. So
I think it is at the point where if you count the work I've put into it in terms of some of the parts that are on it that and just the labor.
It's rare. It's just
and it's rare. Yeah.
It's rare. It might be $3,500 on Bring a Trailer, maybe. Who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah. Liability.
Okay. Okay. So the next question is from Alex Stadel. This is about new cars. Is Mazda on its way out? Now, this is something I don't have a ton of knowledge about. I've just, sort of anecdotally seen, their sales are down. They're trying to go up market, and that's a tough battle. I don't know if I haven't actually driven the new Mazda 3 that apparently is not selling very well, but it's apparently a really nice car. I guess I would like to drive one of those to see if they're really premium enough to warrant the higher prices. I'm also kind of wondering if their profit margin per car is higher now. So maybe they're just okay with not selling as many cars. I don't know. I do know this, that there are other brands that are down too. Toyota sales have been down, Nissan sales have been down, and Ford cut jobs and that kind of thing. So I don't really know where they're at in the industry. This is not like an industry podcast, but it does seem like the hardest thing for them is probably that desire to go up market, where they have a brand that just is not. People don't think of Mazda and think of Audi.
Right.
That's a hard thing to try to. You can convince car enthusiasts that. Sure, I feel like a Mazda might kind of approach Acura or that kind of territory in terms of interior quality, whatever. But the average person, they're gonna be like, okay, Mazda. It's like that Nissan. That's like that Japanese company that I don't really hear about that much. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think they're on their way out at all. I think they are definitely going through a full restructuring right now. And this question was great because it brought up something that I saw on Twitter a couple days ago, where they announced that the next generation Mazda 6, which is a sedan, they're still going to produce, but the next generation is going to have rear-wheel drive platform. So they're switching the whole thing around, and it's going to have an inline 6-cylinder engine.
This is one of, that's great. I don't think anybody, I don't think that's going to improve sales at all.
I don't think it will either, but I think what it's doing is it's putting it out there even more, because right now, at least in the United States, for Mazda, their whole spiel is they're selling, you don't want to call them premium SUVs, but SUVs that kind of look premium in a way, because the design language they're using on the cars looks very upscale now. Comparison to my Mazda 2
for a long time. Sure. Right. Yeah.
It looked like a Pokemon character. The design language on the cars is very, very, very up, I said upscale already, but you think of another word to use. But
we'll break out the thesaurus for upscale.
We're
not writers here.
We're not writers.
Okay. Some other word for upscale.
And you know, they used to be cheap cars. Like my Mazda 2, that was a cheap car, like brand new. It was like $16,000. But for a Mazda 3, which is their entry level car, I think you can get their CX-3 a little cheaper actually than the Mazda 3. But like if you wanted to get the Grand Touring with a stick and all the other the things like
expensive.
that, it's
pushing
like,
30. Yeah,
it's over 30. It's
over 30. Okay,
it's into the mid 30s. I remember seeing the sticker on one at the LA Auto Show this year, and I was like, "Holy crap! This is a $35,000 Mazda 2 or Mazda 3." And so I was like, "Oh," but you know, if this is what they're trying to do, then more power to them, because you know they're seeing luxury sells more than sportiness. Because you know, you used to think Mazda, and like for years, zoom zoom, you know, that was their slogan. And you know, they had the Miata, they had the Mazda Speed 3, the Mazda Speed 6, and all these other, you know, fun sporty cars. And then they kind of went away from that, and now and they don't make a bad product, but it's just
you know, enthusiasts want to see a Mazda Speed 3. You know, they've been asking for that forever, you know, and
they said no.
I mean, obviously they still got the MX-5. That's great. But yeah, I don't know.
I think Mazda will be on its way out if they discontinue the MX-5. If that would be the thing.
Then nobody's going to care about them.
Nobody's going to care.
Even if they don't sell that many of them, that's kind of like that's sort of the glue that holds together their brand.
It is
what the brand stands for.
It took over for the rotary engine, which of course has another rumor that it's coming back, but you know, we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like that's one that I know that Alex, the guy that asked this question, he's owned his fair share of RX-7s in the day, so you know, he's got some Mazda in his blood. I don't know. I feel like the rotary engine is just something that Mazda just needs to let die. You know. Nobody cares about it anymore except for diehard enthusiasts. I mean, I care
and
weirdos.
About it. I care about it. I think it's awesome.
I care about it. I think it's great. But for their survival as a company, it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. It's more of just like, let's try to make this work. It didn't really work that great. You know, it's like, okay, fuel efficiency sucked and it leaked, it burned a ton of oil, and we just haven't been able to get past that. Let's just let's lay that one to rest, and let's you know, their brand is Miata, their brand is MX-5, and let that breathe life into everything else that they do. Yeah, I think the other thing is, you know, I've read stories about their dealers kind of sucking, and maybe that has an issue to do with their sales too, and their desire to go up market. You know, that could be an issue if your dealers aren't that great. You know, everybody talks about Lexus dealers being great, and that's part of the experience you get when you buy a Lexus is that you have this great dealer experience. And you know, maybe that's a missing element of Mazda dealers, where it just feels like you're going into a Nissan dealer. And what's the difference? What's the big deal here? I'm paying for an expensive economy car. So
there you go. Yeah. Well, I think that I think they'll make it through though. I think
it's my favorite car brand. I mean, I think for a lot of enthusiasts, it's their favorite car brand too. So
they've done a lot for enthusiasts, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yep. All right. We got a time for a few more. I mean, we're running long here, but let's keep chugging.
Sure.
YouTube Sneakers on Feet. He asks, what's your dream car from the 80s and 90s? I'm going to do two answers here. I think when I was a kid, you know, I had a lot of posters on my wall in the 80s. I'm old. So I had posters on my wall in the 80s. One of the ones that I had was the Vector W8. Oh God. It's a W8, cool. Right? Yes. So the first one, what was the second one called? I forget the rounder one that wasn't as cool. Anyway,
M12.
That is just, so they made, you know, I don't know how many of these W8s that they made, but I just, you know, I'm going to pull it up right now. It's just, I want to look at it on Vector. I just have to ogle over it. I mean, the first one that I actually saw was at Radwood, LA in last year. 2018. Yeah, the one I actually saw in person, and it lived up to the hype. I mean, it just was a lovely, cool, it just oozed 80s, and it just brought me back. The interior was just this fighter pilot inspired craziness. The windshield on this is like the most raked windshield. It kind of has like a, you can see the 70s elements of like the wedge design kind of in here too. But yeah, it was seriously the craziest supercar ever, and I love that thing. So I would say that would be the dream car. Obviously, if cost was no object. But I will say the other car that I had on my wall back in the 90s was I'm going to forget the generation it was, but the 300ZX twin turbo. It was a 90 or 91. What was that? What was that generation called?
The Z32.
Thank you. So that one, it's kind of weird to think of a Nissan as a dream car. That was one of those cars when I was young. I thought it looked so cool. It was really fresh design. It still looks kind of not modern. It still looks good today. That's a car that you look at today and you're like, it just looks good. It doesn't look like it's aged that much. So
right.
That was a car that back in the day, I had one of the ads that was one of these pull-out ads from Car and Driver that I stuck to my wall. That I just loved that. I love the way that car looked. So that would be my two choices.
Good. Those are those are both great choices. Yeah. Man, I loved the Vector when I was a kid. Remember seeing pictures of it. I had those little cards. I don't even know how to explain this, but there were like these little cards that had different cars on them. And I remember one was
like baseball cards or something.
It kind of, but they were a little bit bigger. I don't know, either or. But I remember that was when I saw the Vector. I was like, oh, that's such a cool looking car. And I remember there was like an article in Road and Track or something that I had one of the issues, and I was like, oh. Or it was always in the back, like, and it would like list the top speed, and it was like Vector was always the fastest, like 228 miles an hour.
Yes,
or whatever
exactly. Did it ever really do that? Though?
I don't think so. But it was so cool though. It was such a cool car. But I think for me, for the 80s, I would think my dream would be something like a BMW M1, specifically like the race car, like the pro cars when they have the series. Oh man, that is such an awesome car. I love that thing so much. The design of it is just, it's a wedge car,
Sure,
but it's gorgeous. And I think that would definitely be, if it was cost no object or whatever we're going to do, but we're going to, of course, flip it, because we'll do two for me as well.
Okay.
And for 90s, it would just have to be a Daihatsu Charade GTTI Turbo. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
good call.
We knew that was coming.
Yes, we did.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I think we have time for one or two more. So, and Doxer from, I'm assuming that's how you say it on Instagram. If it were 1980 instead of 2020, that's a long time ago, 40 years ago. But your current socioeconomic position was unchanged, what vehicles would the Hello Road fleet consist of? I'm gonna try something crazy here.
Okay.
Try something a little crazy. I'm gonna do a fleet of all Datsuns. Okay.
Oh,
so
that's good.
Go look up like the 200 SX from the 70s. I forget what year. Is it a 76? 76. I'm going to have to look it up. 76 200 SX. Is that it? Oh, yeah, that's it. That is a weird car. Weird looking car. It's so weird. I want one of those. Let's see. I would like a 510. Timeless, shape. Oh, great looking car. Love the beautiful 510. I'd probably go for an 810 because you have a little luxury.
There you go.
I had a Datsun B210. I had a 74 B210 for a couple years. It was a brown turd. But it was just one of those vehicles that I remember as a kid loving the way this thing looked. I loved the hubcaps. It looked like somebody bashed them in with a hammer. I don't know if you remember those hubcaps that Datsun had in the 70s. I would also like a B210 Super B, which is basically just a appearance package of the B210. It didn't do anything other than like have a picture of a bee on the side. I want that. And then there was also a wide body B210 that was like this body kit that this company, I forget the name of the company that came out with it. Let's see. I'm trying to remember what the hell it was called. Yeah, so there's a wide body B210 kit. Here's a picture of it. I'm looking it up right now. It's so ugly. Just look up 1977 Datsun B210 wide body. Now, this is just some company that came up with this body kit for the B210. It makes it so much worse. Like the B210 is kind of an interesting car. Like it's kind of this weird fastback shape. It kind of reminds me of like an Alpha GTV or something like that. But this takes that and fucks it up and ruins the crap out of it. It's
Oh
really
my
bad.
God. I just saw it right now. Oh my God.
Did you throw up a little bit in your mouth? You might have.
Yes,
so
I did.
This would be the piece de resistance of my collection right here.
What the hell is that?
So this was a company, I don't know where they got their ideas from. They just thought they would take this really slow economy car and make it look like a really bloated, slow economy car. So this would be the car that I would probably drive the most out of my collection if it were 1980. Is the 77 Datsun B210 wide body.
Oh,
yep.
Sweet.
Are you looking at the same picture as me? Is it the gray and blue one?
Yeah,
Yes.
I already.
It's the first thing you see when you.
I can't unsee that.
Yeah,
that's bad. And I mean, I've got really poor taste, and that's bad.
Yes,
that's bad.
there was one of these for sale on Craigslist a few months ago, and I had it saved for a long time because nobody bought it. I mean, it was up for sale for a long time because nobody wanted this thing, and I didn't buy it. I should have bought it. I screwed up.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean,
anyway.
For me, I only have one car, so I'm just going to choose one car. And I thought about this, and it would probably be like I guess it would be relatively new if this was in 1980, but it would be late 70s, first generation Civic. CVCC.
CVCC, those are great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be, kind of, it's right in the realm of being a Paul car. I actually do like the cars. I think they're cool.
Sure.
So I think that would kind of be my jam right there if this was 1980 and we were recording this in a recording studio to be broadcast on public radio or something.
Direct to like 2-inch tape or something. We have to okay. Yes. You see those tape reels spinning in the background. Yeah.
Yep. That's what it would be.
Yep. And then we'll have to broadcast it live to AM radio. Okay. Great. Good question. Good question there. There's one more question. I'm going to say that let's not answer this question in this podcast, but I think we should ponder this maybe as an idea for a full episode. So this is from Plug-in Hybrid, which is Brad Brownell. He's one of the co-founders of Radwood, one of the co-owners of my 944 Turbo. He's a bunch of things, at least in my book. So his question is best car from a dead brand. So I think this is a good question for everybody, all the listeners to ponder too. And I think this might be a good stopping point. We really think about this as maybe a potential episode. Like a little seed, plants a seed for the next episode. What do you think?
Go. Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Yeah.
Good old Brad.
I've got a lot of ideas for this one. I think we should probably devote a little bit more time to it. So
yeah, I think so too. I think that's a good idea.
Plus, we're already at an hour and 25, so we probably should cut this thing down. Cut it. Yeah. Stop this train. All right, cool. Well, I guess I've been working on some new YouTube videos. I have my latest video is about. I've got two videos, one about the Probe and one about the Liam Neeson. I did a little walk around of Liam Neeson, our 24 Hours of Lemons race car. I've got another video that I'm working on about the water pump that I'm replacing in the Probe. And that's kind of what I'm up to. What are you up to in the next week or so?
I'm sitting here toying with the notion of getting a set of wheels for the Fit. And it's...
Do it.
Yeah, but here's the thing, like it's all people are selling stuff on OfferUp and Craigslist, but it's like, do you want to go out and see a person and do this right now?
I know.
Not really, but I don't know. That's kind of my plan is to keep myself from doing that. So
that's a great point because I've got it's funny because my wife is in the same room, like working while I'm doing this podcast, and she's probably going to overhear me like talking about this right now. I've got a list of about like 15 cars on Craigslist. She knows this. I've got a list of about 15 cars on Craigslist that I'm constantly watching. And there's a bunch that I really want to buy. And, we already have too many cars here. But, I will say the social distancing aspect of what's going on right now is a good deterrent for me to not make stupid decisions. So, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
there's a Mercury Sable right now that's on Craigslist. That's been on Craigslist for $1,200. It's an 88 or it's a 90. It's got the light bar. Oh, it's
the wagon?
It's gorgeous. No, it's not a wagon. Actually, the wagon would be great. But it's a sedan. It's in great shape, low miles, light bar, everything that you think of a beautiful Mercury Sable from the 90s would be like. It's just, oh God, it's only $1,200. It's only $1,200.
Oh.
That's a problem. It's a problem.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yep. I need to fix some of my crap cars that I got right here already. So,
yep.
All right. Well, I think that maybe now we talk about where we can find each other on the socials.
Oh, yes.
Did you change your Instagram handle again?
I did.
Oh, jeez. Everybody listening to the old episode is going to get all confused and not be able to find you.
Okay. They'll find me.
Where can they find you?
Well, my new Instagram handle is just simply my name, P, and then for Paul, and then a period, and then my last name, McCarthy, McCarthy, and then the number 83, which is not the year I was born.
Okay.
At AOL, yeah. No, I just, I wanted to change. Guess what happens? You get bored, and you're like, I'm just going to change my Instagram name again and piss off all my thing. It's because I don't have a good name like you do. Your name is perfect in the way it works.
Oh God.
It just is, and other people have good like names that flow nicely and stuff like that.
I will say this: when you search for your name, Google always says, "Did you mean Paul McCartney?" That always happens. It's just like, no, I'm just looking for my friend Paul McCarthy. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So that's an issue. I get it. So switch it up. Switch it up.
Yep.
All right. So everybody can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. Ethan Tufts, and youtube.com/HelloRoad. And hopefully we'll have a new video here soon. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks for everybody for joining us for our latest Q&A episode. And thanks so much for everybody for asking us really great, thoughtful questions. And hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Yes. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Take care.